Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday evening to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there and, more importantly, staying safe. We obviously have some very active weather ongoing out there as I speak. I understand a lot of people are probably tuning into the folks going live, whether they're storm chasing or doing a live feed of the actual radar, breaking down what's going on and really what's coming. And of course, we've had reports of tornadoes in Indiana already. In fact, it's not really reports; it's confirmed. It's some of these videos. I mean, it's definitely pretty obvious these are tornadoes. There's definitely no. It's funny on Twitter, some kind of news station in Indianapolis posted a video of a tornado from one of their viewers, and it said possible tornado, but it was pretty obvious it was a tornado on the ground. But regardless, I hope you guys are staying safe out there. Please be aware of any warnings, things like that. There's active warnings ongoing right now, whether it's tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, you got tornado watches, you got a couple tornado watches, and you have many areas that's already seeing active weather right now. We'll continue to do so into the overnight hours. But really, this video is going to be keeping you guys ahead of this system, which that means we're going to discuss on what could potentially happen for tomorrow. But I want to let you guys know active weather is going to continue tonight throughout the overnight hours and even some active weather into tomorrow morning. We'll discuss the potential for that and how any kind of morning thunderstorms, showers, rain, whatever it may be, could affect what happens in the afternoon and evening for Monday p.m. So with that being said, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I want to say welcome to any new viewers, new subscribers to the channel. The video this morning was one of the most successful videos since I would say back in early May or late April, something like that. So thank y'all for the incredible support. It's a family type atmosphere here. There's no oohs and ahs with this channel. There's nothing fancy. It's not a grand setup or anything like that. We keep it original. We just keep it fresh. I don't edit these videos. We just kind of roll with it here on this channel, and a lot of people like that. There's some people who might want more of a professional channel, and I completely get that. I understand that, but regardless, appreciate you folks giving us a chance here with this channel. Family type atmosphere here, and welcome to any new viewers. If you folks got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put that in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. And more importantly, we're glorifying God doing it, praying for one another, looking out for one another, and things like that. So also want to mention, got some cats in my room. They're very comfy. Taking a little bit of a late afternoon nap, which isn't good news for tonight. They're probably going to be running like all over the house overnight, which you folks know if you got cats, they like to get crazy at nighttime for whatever reason. But if I move my head, see that black area behind my head? That is a cat, and then I got one on the dresser over here. But let's talk about the weather. Satellite view of what's going on in the Ohio Valley, or some people like to call this the Midwest. Regardless, as you can tell, these big explosion of storms that's ongoing right here, these puffy cumulus clouds that builds really high up in the atmosphere here along this dragging cold front at the surface, upper level low up here spinning away, creating numerous showers and some storms up here in areas of the upper Midwest, but nothing severe. You're lacking dynamics, but explosion of storms ongoing right now. These are continuing, and they're going to continue to march, and we'll see how the structure of this storms are as you move over into the next overnight hours, but we're expecting this to turn more into a linear look. But the tornado threat is increasing for western Kentucky all the way down into northern sections of Tennessee. And then you see this area down here on your screen. This is what was up here earlier this morning, and this is maintaining well. In fact, we've had some strong to severe storms as far southeast as the upstate of South Carolina. So I might even get some storm action. For you folks that don't know, I live here in central South Carolina in Columbia. So hoping we can get some storms a little later on. I like a good summer storm if it's not too bad. But this is what's going on right now. Storm Prediction Center, this is the current outlook between now and tomorrow morning. Still have the enhanced risk, still have the tornado risk, but I expect this to drop somewhat or either get extended southeast. But right now, you still got the 10% risk of a tornado in this region, a 10% risk of a significant tornado. Wind risk, I haven't looked at what's going on in Arkansas right now, but if the storms aren't exploding right now, they probably will here in the next hour or two. I'll be completely honest with you. I did not check the radar out of Little Rock or northern Arkansas before I started this video. So you guys let me know what you're seeing in Arkansas right now, but expecting weather to deteriorate over the next several hours in Arkansas. Memphis, some bad weather here in the next couple hours as possible. And we'll continue to watch, see if these storms make it all the way to, you know, like Chattanooga, Atlanta, to the overnight hours. Hail threat, significant chance of hail, 30% chance of hail in the red area, these two red areas. And then you got the hatch risk, which is a 10% risk of significant hail, 2-inch in diameter or larger. And we've already seen that today. So this is verifying, especially up here. And the tornado threat has already verified for numerous locations. Southern Indiana, it really has been popping off over the last hour. But let's move into tomorrow. Guys, please stay safe tonight. I want to leave it at that. You know, I'm not going to get super detailed with another forecast for tonight's threat. This is kind of ongoing right now. And you really need to pay attention to the people that are going live with this over the next several hours. A lot of people to spend a lot of time going live, doing their live feeds. You know, Ryan Hall is obviously a household name in the weather community. I believe there's another new guy, too, that was affiliated with Ryan Hall. He does a great job. But there's a lot of people that spend a lot of time keeping you guys aware, so stay tuned with them, and please stay safe tonight. But let's go on and flip it to tomorrow's threat. We'll focus in on this threat. Nothing out here. We're going to focus in on the Mid-Atlantic and the Southeast. Enhanced risk for some highly populated areas. We're going to take a broad look at this first, and this is what it is. Marginal risk extends all the way from the Panhandle of Florida all the way up to New England. And, you know, Columbia, South Carolina has a slight. Charlotte, Wilmington, Roanoke, but, you know, Raleigh, Norfolk, Richmond, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, the Delmarva region, all of Delaware, and a good chunk of eastern and southeastern Maryland, enhanced risk. Now let's go on and take a closer look at this. And as you can tell, those areas I just mentioned, Raleigh, Greensboro, Richmond, Norfolk, Greenville, North Carolina, Fayetteville, almost down to Jacksonville, North Carolina, Charlottesville, you're right in the slight risk, I would say. But Fredericksburg, Washington, D.C., all of Delaware, all the coastal regions of Maryland, Washington, D.C., I've not mentioned that, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Atlantic City. Doesn't quite get up to New York City, but New York City, you have a slight risk. There is going to be a significant risk of wind damage in this region tomorrow. I can't reiterate that enough, but there's a slight risk that extends all the way down to Columbia, almost all the way down to Augusta, Georgia. This includes Columbia, or down to Orangeburg, Florence, Charlotte, Hickory, all the way over to Charlottesville, Roanoke, all the way up to New York City, and areas of Long Island. Long Island split in half. So even a very small corner of southwest Connecticut. We'll see if this extends one way or the other. It'll probably look totally different as we wake up in the morning, but we'll obviously discuss it again tomorrow morning. The tornado threat for tomorrow, as of now, just a 2% risk. But I wouldn't be surprised one bit if we wake up tomorrow morning and they squeeze in a 5% risk somewhere in the Mid-Atlantic, I would say. But you got a 2% risk in the green area you see of a tornado within 25 miles of any given location. This includes pretty much everybody in the slight and enhanced risk. Okay, the hail risk, this will be a big deal. They dropped the hatch risk, and I have no idea why, but I can almost guarantee you they'll re-put that hatch risk in here, which means there's going to be a chance for significant hail. But in the yellow, which covers the entire slight and enhanced risk that I just showed you, Columbia, Charlotte, Raleigh, Greensboro, Fayetteville, Roanoke, Richmond, Norfolk, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, up to Philadelphia, you have a 15% risk to see hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. But I can tell you, they're probably going to put a hatch risk somewhere into this region right into here, which means there's going to be a 10% risk of significant hail, which is 2 inch in diameter or larger. Wind threat tomorrow, no hatch risk for wind, but you're going to have wind damage tomorrow. Okay, this is right at the exit region of this 500 millibar flow, basically the kinematics aloft, the wind flow aloft, that's going to support not only the tornado threat, very small, but strong wind threat in this region. So in the red, that is a 30% risk of winds exceeding 50 knots or higher within 25 miles in any given location in this red area. So that's basically a 30% chance of 55 to 60 mile per hour winds, guys. Yellow, same criteria, but only a 15% risk. So that's the breakdown of the Storm Prediction Center outlook of what could happen tomorrow. Now let's talk about the models. And I'm going to go on and tell you, before we get going, the models totally disagree. We're going to focus on the NAM and the HRRR model, the HRRR model. They disagree. And so hopefully when we do this again tomorrow morning one more time, we have some better agreement. But I can tell you right now we don't. First off, the HRRR model did pretty well with this first complex of storms surviving and making it to the east side of the Appalachian Mountains. All right, and that's happening right now in the upstate of South Carolina, North Georgia. You've had severe weather. You have severe weather ongoing right now. But this is for tomorrow morning. We'll start off, if you're confused at any time what time frame we're at 7 a.m. This is all in Eastern time, okay? 7 a.m. Look at this. It's got storms ongoing in North Georgia, Northeast Georgia. Storms moving out in the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee, and then moving into the upstate of South Carolina. You know, this is affecting areas kind of straddling and riding down that Georgia-South Carolina state line. All right, so this is moving through, and you're thinking, okay, is this all we're going to get today? Well, no, probably not. But it's going to be interesting as you get into the mid to late morning hours if these re-intensify before making it to the coastline of South Carolina, maybe Georgia, maybe even southeast North Carolina. This morning convection could have a player on what happens later in the afternoon. And really the big reason is because does this morning convection, it's going to stabilize the atmosphere here, right? But does the atmosphere recover quick enough to where you're going to get that lift for these thunderstorms up here? You're going to have the instability that basically builds back in behind this line of storms. So at around lunchtime, right, and we keep this going, some storms may refire again in southeast Georgia. They could be quite intense, even though I think you only have a marginal risk down here. Let's see. Just a marginal risk down there. Okay, but they're refiring, so be careful if you're in southeast Georgia. You keep these going, and you get to about 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You see some cells getting going, but it's not very widespread on the latest HRRR model. It's a very weak run in regards to severe weather, which would be a good thing. But you keep going here. You got some individual cells, and I'm going to talk more about you folks in Maryland, points northeast here on the next frame, so bear with me. I'm not leaving you guys out. But I really think you're going to get some intense storms, regardless of what the HRRR model is saying, that's going to come off the leeward side of the Appalachian Mountains. Okay, so we're going to see what happens. You could have some storms already firing up here in northeast North Carolina, right around southeast Virginia, the Norfolk area. Some intense storms could pop up right in the Midlands. It's going to be difficult to figure out. But you keep this going. But I can tell you, it's a weird run of the HRRR model. I thought about not even pulling it up because I didn't really give it any credit. I'm still not, but I'm going to show you because I'm comparing all model guidance. But you keep this going, and it's widely scattered intense storms. For example, this is a pretty intense storm just west of Augusta. And you keep this going, and it looks like the worst weather is like in the Piedmont, North Carolina, central South Carolina, and areas of eastern Georgia. So it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds. But I can tell you, Virginia, you're going to get a lot more weather than what the HRRR model is saying around 8, 9, 10 p.m. for the HRRR model. But we'll keep this rolling here. I do think we're going to have a pretty solid cluster of storms that roll late into the evening, into the overnight hours for the eastern Carolinas, probably up here into the Delmarva region area. But I can tell you, we get all the way out to 5 a.m. Tuesday. The HRRR model is just kind of weird with this. It really is. Let's take a look at the NAM. One thing I'll tell you is the NAM does not like the idea of morning convection at all. This is the same time frame that I just showed you for the HRRR model, right? Nothing. You got some scattered short storms, showers and storms in eastern North Carolina, but nothing going on. So you take it all the way to 1 p.m., there's nothing hardly going on at all. And then you take it to 3 p.m., bang, storms fire up in the foothills, leeward side of the eastern side of the Alps here, the mountains of Virginia. And these immediately will probably go severe, strong to severe, within probably an hour of them forming. These could be intense. They'll start to ride into the Washington, D.C. area, all of Virginia, I think, central VA being impacted by storms late afternoon. And then we watch as these storms kind of blast into southern Maryland, into southern areas of Delaware as we get into the 7, 8, 9 p.m. time frame. This shows some intense storms here. And eventually, I think you're going to get some big-time storm growth all the way into North Carolina. Sometime in the evening hours, Raleigh, Greensboro, northeast North Carolina, you guys could experience a pretty nasty line of storms I think really won't get going into North Carolina, point south, maybe until later in the evening. But show some storms all the way down to North Carolina. This looks like a solid line of storms into the overnight hours tomorrow night. And then it makes it all the way to the coastline. And that's it. So I can tell you, the afternoon runs for tomorrow don't look near as worrisome as maybe the prior 12 to 18 hours of models did. But you still got to watch out for this. And if you look at the updraft velocity swath, it does show some storms rotating, but I would favor a little bit higher up for any kind of tornado threat. And the reason you're not seeing any highlighted areas of Virginia up in this region is because the H-R model doesn't really develop much storm action in Virginia, which I would argue Virginia will probably be the highlighted state tomorrow for the worst weather. It's just the models are struggling with this. They are, but it does show some rotating storms out in eastern Georgia and South Carolina, Piedmont, North Carolina. As far as winds, you could be waking up to some gusty winds tomorrow in western South Carolina, northeast Georgia, and then these kind of make their way through. We get some more storms that develop, and you see little pockets right here, kind of, east of Charlotte, where some winds and some of these storms could gust to 40, 50 miles per hour. Same thing here, west of Georgia. But because of the HRRR model, really doesn't have, explosive storms up here in Virginia, there's nothing really to talk about on this model run. Okay, but it certainly has a chance to be here in regards to severe weather. And I kind of regret not showing you the ingredients driving this, but just for the lack of inconsistency with the models, I just didn't, and I probably will again tomorrow morning when we can get some better agreement with the models. But you basically got a pretty stout wind field moving in right at the initiation of the storm. You kind of have an exit region of this jet that's going to move into North Carolina, Virginia, and this is going to be the lift provider for some explosive storms. So this is the first time probably in a while that the short-range models completely disagree with what I think is going to happen and what most people think is going to happen, including the Storm Prediction Center, which obviously has an enhanced risk of severe storms all the way down from Virginia to North Carolina. But, here we are. But any storms that do get going, this is getting into the middle of the night. You could have some very strong winds with some of these storms tomorrow night, but it doesn't show it well on here. Now, let's take a look at the mid-Atlantic areas in the Northeast, southern New England. As we are getting tomorrow morning, you could have some storms that are ongoing in the southern tier of New York State up here and areas of western PA. And, these storms look quite intense up here. I would watch out the southern tier of New York State. Some strong storms can move into your area. A line of storms quickly develops, and this is because you're closer to this upper level low that's back west. But you're not going to have any issues with storms forming in this region. So, you're getting into 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Watch out State College right around rush hour tomorrow. You could have a few lines of storms moving through. The HRRR model definitely ain't missing on this. And I do think you're going to have some intense line of storms in areas of eastern PA, Maryland. You're going to have probably some weather in West Virginia too, but I would say this fires up east of you folks. But I'll stop it here. This is around 6 p.m. tomorrow. You could very well be having some bad storms in Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, Delaware. A line of storms could very well be extended all the way down to Virginia, North Carolina. But please watch out. This area of storms right here could produce some very strong winds. And then this could make it all the way into the southern sections of New York State. And, this run, the model says that the most active weather doesn't make it to like New York City, Long Island until closer to midnight tomorrow. So we'll see if that happens. That doesn't mean you're not going to get a storm or two possible before that, but it shows the main chunk of the worst weather really getting in late into the overnight hours. But this moves in. You could get some storms overnight tomorrow night into the wee hours of the morning for southern New England, and then maybe a more intense line develops like you see down here for the Outer Banks early in the morning hours Tuesday morning. You look at the NAM. That's not the NAM. Look at the NAM on how this could develop. Same kind of situation. You keep this going, you could have numerous showers, maybe some storms already in New Jersey, southern areas of New York State, maybe even PAs, all the way from the morning hours all the way to lunchtime. This will eventually clear out. And I can tell you the HRRR model and the NAM are much more agreement of what could happen in PA and areas in the Mid-Atlantic and southern areas in New England tomorrow. It shows a line of storms quickly developing, draping all the way from central VA, all the way through Maryland, all the way up to PA, all the way almost to the southern tier regions of New York State. And you keep this going. And I like the idea of this, a big linear type look where you're probably going to have some strong to damaging winds along this line. It's going to sweep throughout the afternoon and evening hours pretty much and make it all the way to the I-95 corridor. But still, it really breaks it apart a lot quicker than what I think it might happen. So I guess take from all this, guys, that the models are struggling with this. Even in the middle of doing this video, I'm thinking to myself, man, this is difficult because the models are not agreeing with what I think is going to happen. But just know, trust the Storm Prediction Center on what's going to happen. Okay, and they say you're going to have an enhanced risk. The ingredients are there. But it's going to be interesting waking up tomorrow morning, seeing what the models look like again, seeing what actually is falling. Are you going to actually have that cluster of storms in South Carolina? It's a big question here. But, you look at the updraft Felicity swath for tomorrow. Watch out for I think you'll have a couple tornado warnings in eastern PA, maybe Maryland tomorrow, Delaware. Be careful because you're closer to that upper level low. You might be lacking a little bit more instability, but I do think you could get a couple spin-ups up here in the Delmarva region into eastern PA, maybe New Jersey. Please be careful. Basically, where these colors are is where it's trying to indicate the best areas of where some of these storms could be rotating. But the winds, if the HRR model was to be correct, you can expect some intense winds, and this line of storms is ongoing tomorrow afternoon and evening. 40, 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts with some of the more intense storms are possible. But I'm going to tell you guys, that's pretty much it. But you have the overlapping of kinematics and thermodynamics tomorrow in certain areas. I would say your thermodynamics are much more robust than your kinematics. And you're thinking, Mitch, what are you talking about? Thermodynamics is your surface temperatures, your CAPE, your lapse rates, which I did not show on here, but your lapse rates are definitely supported for a very large hail threat tomorrow. It's basically having a cool, dry air aloft that supports hail. And I'll probably dive a little bit into that in tomorrow morning's video, but it certainly supports it. The dynamics support it. Your kinematics is basically your favorable wind profile aloft. How are the winds turning with height? How are they speeding up with height? Things like that. And they're supportive, but of course not as high end as your thermodynamics in the setup. But we'll re-go over all this information again in the morning. Stay safe out there tonight. And in the meantime, God bless all y'all. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you Monday morning.